Be here tomorrow.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Friday morning. Not as cold, beautiful day up here in Memphis and Cross County over here in eastern Arkansas. There's always a lot to cover. We got Tommy Kane, our ACC report over in Charlotte, talking college football, college basketball, what's happening over on the Eastern Front. Be joined in the second segment by Coach John Brady, LSU color analyst, of course, coached at Samford, took LSU to the Final Four, coached at Arkansas State. We'll be talking SEC basketball, ACC basketball, college basketball, Memphis, you name it. We'll get into that. Hour number 2, we've got the Texas duo, Ken Capps out in Austin. Received a prestigious award from University of Texas last week. We'll talk about that. Alumnus of the Year in the School of Journalism. It's a big, big honor. Bo Carter, National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers Association of America, will join us. And Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, if he's not pulled into this golf foursome that he said he might have to play in. That sounds tough, but Yancy, love having him on here, so we'll know in the second hour. We do this 25 times a month, at least 300 shows a year. We don't do it part-time. We do it all the time. Repetition is the mother of all skill. You know, a lot of podcasts are like giant run-on sentences. We structure this like just any other regular radio podcast show. We love our sponsors. We love our listeners. We love our viewers. Follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live, and check us out on the YouTube page. Be a subscriber, youtube.com/@sidelines_live. Man, Tommy, it's just an awesome time of year right now. You got, obviously we know what happened in the World Series. The Braves weren't in, so we'll skip along and nothing to talk about there. That pissed a lot of people off. Billy Roberts, Tyler, Frank Duffy, you. I love the Braves because of the way that they, again, have married in with the Southern sports fan and what they call Braves country. And those people, I don't know Alex Anthopoulos, but, Harvey Schiller's son is there. You've got, look at the resumes of the people that are there. That's why they have such a successful thing. And it makes me say to myself, and I was watching Dave Doran, the coach of NC State, talking last week, and then you had the Textile Bowl. Okay, Textile Bowl. You beat Clemson 24-17. What does this mean for ACC right now? I've asked this question, and I said, was Clemson's ascension to the top due strictly to Florida State being a dumpster fire? Now they got Mike Norvell in there. He's rolling. Or is it a combination of that and Dabo's refusal to say, I'm going to go into the portal, I'm going to work with NIL and adapt? I think it's the latter, but you're right there in the heart of ACC country where they play for the championship.
Yeah, I think, first of all, Rob, good morning to you. It's
good morning.
I think that Clemson is the situation there. I think you nailed on the head. I think it's the second thing you mentioned about Dabo just not being willing to jump into the portal and get the transfers and whatnot. But, that being said, before the portal existed, he did a great job recruiting and got all those kids in there, and they won a lot of games. They won a national championship here and there. And so it has something to do with that for sure. But, it's just, Clemson's always had that marquee, big name quarterback too, the Deshaun Watsons, the Trevor Lawrences of the world, the Taj Boyds, and they've had great quarterbacks there. And right now they just don't have a very good quarterback. They don't have that chemistry going on with their offense that they normally have. Their defense is still pretty good. And I think it's just it's a combination of all of that stuff. And, I'm sure as you talked about the other day on your show, but the whole Dabo Sweeney rant that he went on, like in my opinion, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. I mean, I think he
Yeah.
had to defend himself and defend his program. Like that, you can't. There's no other profession in the world where people can call up on a public forum and say and question your salary, question your everything, and do it, and that is just not correct. It's not right. I mean, nobody calls up to the head of the bank in the local town that makes, let's say he makes $200,000 a year and go, you're making $200,000 a year and I can't get a loan. Why not? Whatever. And it's on the radio. It's all over the national news. I mean, people just don't do that. You just don't. And he had all the right in the world to defend himself and his program.
Yeah. And with Clemson, you look at the last from 91 to 2011, they had that 20-year period. They didn't win the ACC. And he would have to be referred to as, are you Clemsoning again?
Clemsoning, right.
I followed Clemson since I was a kid. Again, they were one of those schools I would write to, and they'd send me a whole huge envelope of purple and orange stuff and stickers, media guides. I mean, they are a populist school like NC State. These ag schools, land-grant universities, what have you, but they're populist. And you've got a lot of engineers. I mean, I love that, the Textile Bowl. That'd be kind of cool, have Auburn play Clemson every year like they used to, and NC State. We're going to start seeing, because of a 12-team playoff, maybe we're going to see more matchups like that. But I think Clemson, you look at 15 to 19, 5 years, they only lost 5 games. And they played for the national championship 4 times. And to me, the portal we know what it is. It's a winatorium for the most part. The problems that you have at that school, you're going to have them at the other school. Junior college, you always heard coaches say, well, the kids are there because they probably have grade problems or they have other problems, but they likely have problems. And if you don't get them in early in the spring, it's hard for a junior college kid to make it. I look at NC State. I look at North Carolina. North Carolina's lost 2 in a row. What's going on with Georgia Tech? The ACC is right now in the crosshairs of the American public sniper. But you look at Florida State, look at that program. They're likely going to be in the Final Four. But Miami, Miami and North Carolina, those 2 programs people thought would do well. What is it that's happening in the ACC? Are the fans over there in Charlotte, are they more, well, let's just get into basketball, or what is the temperature of the fans in the ACC? Because you're kind of, again, in the middle of a lot of fan bases like Atlanta is to the SEC and the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to speak as unbiased as I can towards the Tar Heels.
Yes, feel free.
But I mean, Carolina started out the year undefeated and it was rolling, and everybody's on the May bandwagon and all that stuff, and then they lose 2, in my eyes, horrible losses. Virginia, first off, come on. You can't let that happen. But I think what you kind of see right away is that the fans want them to be great as soon as they lose a game, whatever. A lot of fans from certain schools, namely, I think like the Chapel Hill area, they literally just say, okay, season's over, let's move on. Now that they've lost and they lost a couple of games. And I think that's kind of, goes back to their fan base. They always say about the wine and cheese fan base and all that stuff in the Dean Dome. But look, they got a great team there right now, and they're going to be fine. They're going to turn things around. May's a heck of a quarterback. He's going to be playing on Sundays someday, probably. But they'll be fine. And then I think they have the mighty Fighting Camels of Campbell University this weekend.
Yeah,
I didn't even know Campbell had a D1 football team. I didn't either. I got to be honest. I knew they had a decent basketball program over the years, but I had no idea that they had the Fighting Camels of Campbell University. I had no idea that they had a football team. But so that's going to be interesting to see how. I'm sure they'll win by 100. But I think, for NC State that goes, I mean, we've talked about this before, Rob, the Wolfpack Nation is just chomping at the bit to get over that hump, like we have been for years and years and years of football. We have a good season here and there, and then we kind of fall back down. But, it's and basketball season is creeping in. So Duke fans are, Duke just had a nice win last night against Wake Forest in the little Thursday night football game. And Duke's having a great season as far as Duke football goes. I mean, they're having a great season. So, people around here, it's fall. I mean, they love college football just like they do in the SEC territories. This is not quite the same as far as populating the stadiums and doing whatever, because the stadiums aren't quite as big, but people love it around here too. It's just, you just don't get the craziness of football in the ACC, like as far as from the rivalries that you do in the SEC, just because there hasn't been as much success in the ACC schools winning national championships, having to play for, whoever wins this goes on is going to make it into the Final Four kind of thing or whatever. Because the ACC schools, except for Florida State and Clemson, this past couple of years really haven't been in the mix for all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, and I agree with you that the fans over there, because I've got a sister and brother-in-law over in Roanoke, and I mean, they love Virginia Tech. I mean, they're that fan base is, and that's another school. How after Frank Beamer left, and Justin Fuente goes, and I couldn't believe he didn't have more success there, because if you can win at Memphis, you can win anywhere. Now, there's a ton of talent in the Memphis area, but it leaves. They don't. They leave. And kids just naturally want to go away. But that I agree, and I think Clemson. Dabo Sweeney's mentor is Gene Stallings. They're both old school, tough, hard asses, and that's good. That stuff works. But I think if you look at Clemson, an interesting stat: they haven't had a first-round offensive lineman drafted in the first round in 60 years. And so they've done it without, elite talent on the offensive line. But DJ Uiagalelei, he's at Oregon State. The Pac-12 is quarterback central this year. That was the one. And Cade Klubnik was a 5-star coming out of Austin Westlake or Travis. Big-time recruit. And it's, you lose Tony Elliott to Virginia a couple of years ago. You lose Brent Venables to Oklahoma 2 years ago. He promoted from within. Then he brought Garrett Riley over this past year from TCU. Either that's not a good offense, or he's not being allowed to run what he wants to run. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch that one play out. And I look at SEC and ACC. Again, I hope we go to that regular season competition, because I think you can tell a lot more than you can from the bowl games. But Dabo has the right to defend his coach.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
Because the bowl games, half your players don't don't play. Some of your big stars that are going on to the next level, they're like, "Oop, I'm not going to play. I don't want to get hurt, whatever." So a regular season game against some ACC, SEC competition would definitely be a better barometer than a bowl game. Bowl games now are just they're becoming a little bit more like the Pro Bowl in the NFL. Is like, nobody really, they care, but they don't care. It's kind of feeling that way. So,
but they got to be careful with that, because, you look about 4 years ago, Derek Browne at Auburn played in that bowl game in Minnesota, just curb stomped Auburn. But I know, I remember what Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers people said, that they said, here's a guy that came back for his 4th year. And at the end of the game, Auburn was not going to win it. And he's out there on the goal line stand, still running people down, jumping and fighting and scratching and clawing for every bit of ground he could claim. And then I look at, and he went number 7 in the draft. They said it was a character issue. He's out of Buford, Sugar Hill, Metro Atlanta. And then I looked last year at Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr. Bryce out of California, Will Anderson Jr. out of Hampton, Georgia. And, both of those guys came back. They were 1-3. I absolutely believe that the pro scouts and front office people look at the guys that stick it out with their team. That's a character issue. In my opinion, and I don't give a damn if anybody agrees with me or not, I'm going to say it. You have serious character flaws if you abandon your team because you're worried about getting hurt. And don't tell me all these sob stories. I don't want to hear them. Again, Tommy, you and I could get hurt driving to the game. You could be in a car wreck. You could get drunk and roll your ankle coming off a curb. I mean, anything can happen. If you're waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time, it probably will. But I think what's going on now, it's always darkest before dawn. That's a stock market term we use all the time. And then you get a dead cat bounce. I really believe more players will start playing in these bowl games. Some of those guys, LSU, Frank Duffy told a story last year, or it was 2 years ago. 3 of his friends that own businesses in Louisiana did NIL deals with 3 different LSU players. And when the bowl game came, none of those 3 were still on the roster. Now, how pissed off would you be as an employer to pay somebody that doesn't show up? I mean, customer service after this damn virus hit is so bad. I went to a drive-through at Crystal in Memphis. Audrey had a Crystal craving, okay? I'll admit it. And this was Wednesday. And so we go through there, and there's like 3 or 4 cars in front of us. It took 17 minutes for them to take her. She kept going, hold, please. Finally, I get up there, and she hands me my steamer pack of 12 crystals. And I got them. And, you figure at that point, they're going to be so hot, you're going to have to wear gloves, to hold one of those grenades with shrapnel in your hand. That's what we call a crystal. And a bowl of mud, chili, and a box of Fuses French fries. So I get the crystals, and I go, ma'am, I knocked on the window. I said, these are cold. And she looks at me with this attitude, blah, blah, blah. And I said, let me tell you something. I said this to her. I don't need your attitude. I've got my own. And she goes, would you like a refund? I said, yes. And so we went to another place, and it took 19 minutes. It's bad. And so the football thing, it's on the coaches to instill those, but really the parents got to instill the values in them. And I know everybody says they don't care. You know what? Here's what's happened. Your 3-year cycle. Kid comes out. This is what we're seeing. Has a few good games his freshman year, and he's going to the league. That's what you hear. Sophomore year, he dips a little bit. Junior year, first 3 or 4 games, he does something and gets injured. Yeah, the agentitis is what I call it. That's where we are. And the NFL is suffering because of it. A bunch of quitters, a bunch of sorry asses with character issues. That's a problem. And we need more people like you who are exactly what college sports are for.
Well, I appreciate you saying, but Rob, I think too that, I agree with you. Like, I think stepping out on your team before a bowl game it's just completely wrong. I think, like, to me, especially when you're talking about team sports, right? I mean, these are team sports. You're part of a team. And, for you to just walk away from your team and for your own well-being is selfish. I think it's not right. I think it's a problem. And I think that it's just, as a competitor, why would you want to do that? Spend all season, spend the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever, practicing, working out with these guys, going to battle with them every Saturday, playing hard, doing whatever, getting to the point where you have the honor to go to a bowl game, all the pageantry that goes on around the bowl game, all the fun, all the, the pregame festivities that go on for the players and everything else on national TV. And then you just walk away and say, I'm not going to play because I don't want to get hurt. Like, to me, that's just that's a big issue. And I mean, look, I understand those kids are trying to, make a living someday and doing whatever, but it's just, I agree with you 100%. You just don't abandon your team. And most of those guys, obviously, that are walking away are probably the star players because they're able to play on a Sunday. Yeah. So they're just, it's terrible for college football. I agree with you, but that's unfortunately the world that we live in. And the transfer portal doesn't help all that stuff. It's talking about that's just as much. You make a commitment to a school and to a university that put a lot of time and money and investments into recruiting you, and you walk away from that to go play for somebody else. It's just, to me, it's just Like certain circumstances, yes, you like if the coach leaves and you went to go play for the coach, yes, you should be able to transfer too. I mean, we've talked about that, but just saying, "Oh, I'm not happy here because coach is too hard on me," or whatever, I'm going to transfer. Like, no, that's not right, buddy. I mean, that's just setting those people up for failure in their future. That's if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm with Maury Gaston. Land grant alumni and fan bases are more likely to have their feet on the ground rather than their nose in the air. Go Wolfpack. Go Mississippi State. Go Auburn. Go Clemson. Clempson.
Clemson.
Yeah, my niece lives over in Brookhaven, not Atlanta. And of course, Brookhaven's incorporated. It's its own deal. That's where Billy Roberts, my roommate, lives. Brookhaven, not Atlanta. Next to Buckhead, part of Atlanta, but Brookhaven, not Atlanta. And they are Hokie diehards. Cameron, her husband's from down around Tampa. They all went to Virginia Tech. And, you know, there's a lot of questions coming in. I'm going to get to them, but I'll say this, that anything I've ever accomplished in life, you've had to work for. I mean, my mom, 88 years old, dad, 95, daily. Anything worth having in life is worth fighting for, worth working for. I wouldn't swap my experience as a freshman at Auburn for anything, because a guy like Phil Thompson, my pledge trainer, I love that guy. He had a way of communicating to a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old kids that there was only one way, the right way, you know, and they worked our asses off. And I still to this day look up to those guys. I mean, you're supposed to be. Tommy Tuberville said this on the show last time he was on. He used to come on a lot, but now he's a senator and he's kind of busy. He's loved by all.
He needs to get his priorities straight. He needs to get his priorities straight. Come back on the show. Come on.
I know. He was so nice. He goes, I said, "Can you come on?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you want me to come on every week?" I said, "Yes, sir." And that was fun. But he said something since he's been a senator. He said, we're supposed to be teaching these kids the lessons of life. You know, tough times come, you fight through it. I've got friends in the investment business and institutional bond guys. Oh, the banks aren't buying anything, whatever like that. But you know what? They find people who are. And that's what you're supposed to learn from sports.
Yeah, but you know what the other thing about it too, though, in the world that we live in today, with social media and all that other stuff, is like a lot of these kids, you know, let's say coming out of high school, you're probably the big talk of the town for high school football, right? You're this big buzz, you know, it's Rob Browne's this great running back and he's going to go, where's he going to go to school? And all this information, you know, is on the newspaper and, you know, on the web and the Twitter all day and everything else around your local town. And you're kind of the big cheese in town, right? Then you go play for a college and all of a sudden you're not that big guy anymore. And you're kind of like back on the back burner and you're trying to find your way as a player. And you know, you just, and all of a sudden you're like, and you're not in the limelight anymore. So as soon as you put your name in that transfer portal, all of a sudden there's a buzz about you again. Oh, yeah, so-and-so, Rob Browne's transferring from Mississippi State. He doesn't like it there. I wonder what he's going to do. And all of a sudden you take yourself and you're back in that little bit of that social like spotlight with social media and everything else. And you're the buzz again. And as an individual and a person who's used to that, you kind of feed off of that. Right. So I think that a lot of it has to do some of that too. People are like, oh man, I ain't happy here. I'm too good. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the buzz is there again about Rob Browne leaving. And I think a lot of that has to do with the addiction of social media and popularity from the social media standpoint. And I think there's a lot to do with it.
You just nailed it. That ball is out of here. Kane Thomas, Charlotte, North Carolina, born and raised in the mean streets of Wilmington, North Carolina. Grew up playing. I mean, think about it.
The mean streets of Wilmington. I love it.
Yeah. But you remember, think about when we were growing up. Now, I've been an Auburn fan since I was in the womb, but I can remember Kyle Macy, Jim Master, the Kentucky guards. And I remember Auburn losing in 1979, 1980, 2 games to Kentucky on the last shot of the game. We used to play basketball in my basketball goal in our house on Goodway Lane. You couldn't get us in. You would take those bank shots. And there was a guy that played basketball for the University of Memphis, Philip Doom Haynes. And he would always shoot from way outside. He'd hit the backboard. Nobody, that was a great style of shooting. And, I remember Larry Finch, Larry Keenan, all these great players. They were fundamentally sound. And you're exactly right, because your kids are a lot younger than mine, but mine 23, 25, 27, 34, 2 boys, 2 girls. And they are all hard workers. They get it. But that's because of their parents. I've remarried, but the portal is a lot like second marriages. The problems you had, if you don't take care of them in your first marriage, will reappear in the second marriage. And the portal, the problems you had at NC State, if you transfer to Alabama, are going to resurface at Alabama. That's all I'm saying, is that Mac Browne doesn't get enough credit for what he said on last year. I think he was on Feinbaum. He said, up to this was a year ago, over 4,000 kids had entered the portal. Like half of them don't end up going anywhere. It ain't easy, Tommy.
No, it's not. It's not. I would not want to be a coach these days. You couldn't pay me enough. Well, you could pay me enough money. I guess I can't say that. But
almost time you spit my coffee out.
I'll take that $11 million Dabo Swinney contract. But yeah, it's just a different world, and I applaud Dabo to some extent. I don't think it's necessarily the answer to a successful program these days, but for him sticking to his guns on the transfer portal thing, the NCAA or somebody has to step in and do something about this transfer portal. It is ridiculous. It's really, like, the NIL deal is hard enough for a lot of people to swallow as far as when it's coming to what it's doing to college sports. But the transfer portal, to me, I think is really, really destroying college sports as we grow to love it. And you and I've talked about this ad nauseum, but I have to look at the NC State men's basketball roster every year and read up and down it and try to figure out where these guys are from, who they transferred in, because I only recognize 1 or 2 names that came back from last year. And that's just that. As a fan, I have no connection with that player. I have no connection with the kids that came in as a freshman, as a highly touted freshman, and now he's all of a sudden a junior, and we're all excited about him coming back for his junior year. I have no connection to those kind of kids anymore because they don't really exist. There's 1 or 2 of them, but it used to be your whole team, and it's to me, that's what I loved about. I love a lot of things about college sports, but that's one of the things I really loved about it, was having those kids on your program that you could then, brag about when they went to the next level or do whatever. Be like, oh, he played for us for 3 years, he was great, or played for whatever. Now I look at the roster and I'm like, okay, I got to see where this guy, he transferred from Mississippi State. This guy transferred in from Oregon. I have no idea where these guys are, and it's like, there's no connection. So as a fan, I cheer for the name on the front, and I don't cheer for the name on the back as much as I used to.
Well, this is an interesting thing. There's a guy named Chris Moore from West Memphis, Arkansas. He's a 4th-year senior on the basketball team at Auburn. He started some, and he's been a backup part of his time, but he just stays there. And I don't know what he's majoring in or whatever, but that's the kind of guy, if someone ever said, hey, can you help him find a job? Hell yeah. That's what I love, is these guys. And this is what has not happened yet. And I've said this a lot on the show. We need to get the fans across the country to say, okay, we're done. We're done with this stuff. We can boycott too. We can shut off giving to the schools. We can shut off fundraising. We can shut off going to the games. We can fight back. All these people are out here getting punched, from every angle, left side of the head, right side of the head, and in the gut, between the legs. Say, we're not going to take it anymore. You watch. The fans can do it. I think, and I'm right with you. When you got to look at a roster at a game and go, okay, he was with us. Who is this? What makes fan bases follow a school is the connection with a bunch of people that are there. If you look at the value, and I bet you anybody with a brain can tell you this, the value of a 4-year scholarship is probably about $600,000. About $600,000. So there ought to be, punitive measures that can be taken against these student athletes. You can't just, in the business world, if you sign a contract, okay, for $1 million to go work for a company for 5 years and you walk out, in the first year, you owe 800,000 plus. That's how those contracts work. If these kids think they're so smart and want to be treated like adults, like professionals, put some teeth in those contracts. And when they want to hit that quit button because they got a hangover or the wind's blowing in their face, that'll kick them in the nuts. You've got to do that.
Think about this. The percentage of players that go on to play and make a living in professional sports is, as we all know, is minuscule. I mean, it's like there's 1 out of every 50, 100 guys maybe can play. Maybe it's not even that. I don't even know what it is, but status. But so all these other guys are going to go get jobs, right? They're going to go get real jobs out of college. So think about when somebody comes up to you, Rob Browne, and says, "Hey, I would love to come work for you. Here's my resume. I used to play football in college." Oh, great. You look at the resume. Oh, I see you played at Tulane and for a year, and then you transferred and played at Ole Miss for a year, and then you transferred and played at App State for a year, and then you transferred your 4th year and your 5th year you played. Why'd you transfer so many schools?
Yep.
As an employee, you'd be like, that is no loyalty. That is obviously there's something wrong here. There's something that's like, you're not going to stick with me. Why would I hire you? Because you're probably going to leave me too. Like,
there you go.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
Think about that. Like that you're setting yourself up to say, in the past, if you could go into a job interview and say I was a college athlete and I played 2 or 3 years at NC State, or I walked on here or there, or did whatever, that usually as an employer, we're like, oh, it shows me grit. It shows me me you can balance work and school. It shows me you had good work ethic. It shows me that you're passionate about what you're doing. And all of a sudden you look at a resume and say, oh, you played for 3 or 4 different schools in a 5-year period.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
You just nailed it. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. And I didn't mean to cut you off. We got to take a quick commercial break. I want to say something real quick about Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas, located 45 minutes from Memphis. They are the best place to go buy a new car, truck, or SUV. Over 700 pre-owned vehicles on the lot. And I was over there yesterday getting my oil serviced and the wheels rotated and balanced. Talked to Rusty Howard out on the sales floor, and Stacy and Nate and Cecil and Randy. Great people over there. RedRiverFordToyota.com. No vehicle payments until 2024 if you buy a new vehicle over there. Had a bunch of Toyota Tundras. That new TSS is a great looking truck. The F-150s, the F-250 Power Strokes, they've got them all. They deliver anywhere. RedRiverFordToyota.com. And also ECS House Industries, located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, 14 miles north of Wynne, 32 miles south of the home of former Arkansas State basketball coach John Brady, Jonesboro. They have a 99,000 square foot warehouse over there, about 55 employees. And when you see the better roller, the better chopper, the pulverizer, and the aerators on these catfish farms all over the country and around the world, they were very likely made right there at ECS House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. Damn proud of them. You got to love people like Chad House, great American, great patriot. Find your ECS House Industry dealer wherever you are. Check them out on our website, ECSHouseIndustries.com. All right, we'll do this. We'll bring in Coach John Brady. And, Coach, you heard Kane Thomas from over in Charlotte making the point. An employer is looking at a resume and he says, well, John, I see where you signed with Southern Miss. And six weeks later, you were at Tulane. And a year later, you were at BYU. And then you were at Ole Miss. And then you were at a junior college. And then you, hold on a second. How old are you? I'm 22, dude. Guys over there smoking weed in your office. They don't care. I'm writing the script right now. You know what it is? It's called The Unemployables. That's what these people are. And welcome, Coach John Brady. We got Kane Thomas back on here. And last week was a lot of fun. You were in Poplarville. Hope you caught a lot of fish. But hey, man, how many times, Tommy and you, Coach Brady, did our parents as kids tell us anything in life worth having is worth fighting for? Grind it out. My mom wouldn't let me take the elevator to the top of Haley Center at Auburn on the 8th floor to see my advisor. And I said, why not? She goes, because you can't punch a button in life and get to the top. Take the stairs. It'll remind you of the journey to get there. And if I asked her right now at 88, she'd go, you're damn right. Have I ever given you any bad advice? Now go get me my Smirnoff. That's what she'd say.
Smirnoff.
How are you? Oh, she's a Smirnoff drink. I'm like, I can get you some dark eyes in a sack, man. Come on. Or some Redmont vodka from Birmingham.
Oh, my goodness. I'm well, doing good. Had a good time last weekend with Coach Floyd and fished and played a lot of golf, and went up to Hattiesburg and saw Southern Miss play Mississippi State in a charity exhibition game.
Yeah.
And Mississippi State beat them. Tolu, their best player, didn't play, and Southern Miss's point guard didn't play. But both those teams, I think, are going to be fine in their league. I really do. Mississippi State's big, long, athletic, and Southern Miss same way, not quite as big, but for the Sun Belt, they've got a nice athletic team. So I think both those teams in their respective leagues are going to be fine. I'm not saying Mississippi State can win the league.
Yeah.
But I think they've got a chance to get into the top maybe 6 if they can get Tolu back and get him healthy.
Yeah. Well, I love college basketball. And there's one thing that you learn when I was at Auburn, the whole time Sonny Smith was the coach, and we went to the NCAA tournament 5 years in a row. You went to every game. And with Bruce Pearl at Auburn, you pay attention to every game. Tommy, following NC State all these years in ACC basketball, the regular season matters. And as a coach, Coach Brady knows that. I wish people would stop saying, I'll just wait till the tournament, because if you don't have a good regular season, you're not getting to the tournament, Tommy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course. And then, coach will tell you too, like you got to play every game like it means everything, because you could come down to the end of the season where you need that one extra win in order to get in the tournament. So, and you're just wishing you had won that one simple game earlier in the season that, it was against the Sun Belt Conference, and you guys didn't play well, and all of a sudden you lose by 2 or 3 points, and it's a blemish on your schedule when they look at the committee and all that stuff. So every game during the regular season counts, unless you're the elite of the elite in the country that you just know you're going to roll and get your 20, 25 wins and be in every year. But every game counts in the regular season, in my opinion. Well,
and Coach, you have a cool job being the color analyst on the LSU network. You're watching a program, LSU's brand is so strong, Coach Brady. When you took them to the Final Four, the mileage that you get from that. I mean, in Memphis, we still talk about, my dad was in St. Louis for a business meeting in 1973, and the people said, hey, we've got floor seats to the national championship game tonight, Memphis and UCLA. He went and watched that game. He said, boy, that big old redheaded son of a Bill Walton, 21-22. We still talk about that game 50 years later. But, God, you've got a great job. Talk about what's going on at LSU and the rebuilding job. And also I want to get your thoughts. And Tommy, y'all take over. You all together have forgotten more than me and everyone I know about college and pro basketball. So feel free to walk around the cabin. The unfasten your seatbelt lights are on and the smoking sign is on, and free drinks for everyone.
Whoa. Free drinks for everyone. It's only 9:30 in the morning. Come on now, Rob.
Well, it's Germany, Where's that
cup, Rob?
Coffee.
Hey, LSU had it's just one thing I don't understand, really. LSU had a preseason exhibition game against this team called Louisiana Christian. And I'm helping the local junior college here in town now with their program, kind of watching their coach and giving them some suggestions on how to make their program better. And that junior college team could have beat Louisiana Christian. And I don't think LSU gets anything out of beating somebody 130-48 or something. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to play a game like that, at least schedule someone who can give you some resistance and put something up against the guys to make them have to do some things that may carry over into a tougher opponent. But the other thing with our basketball team here at LSU is Coach McMahon hasn't had the whole team at practice but 3 times all year. They've had a lot of nagging injuries. And if there's one thing when I was a head coach that bothered me or made me upset a little bit was guys who were injured and didn't practice, and you don't have your whole team there. So hopefully from the exhibition game this past Monday to this coming Monday when we open up, that he's had a chance to get his whole team at practice together. And that's a frustrating thing as a coach when you have 2 or 3 guys out every day with nagging injuries.
Well, I heard a coach one time, and I'm not going to say the school, but it was a major SEC football coach. He was an offensive line coach. Someone asked him about a particular player who is like a junior college transfer. And he said, oh yeah, I don't even know what his last name is. I just see him sitting on his ass in a hot tub every time I go in the training facility. I'll get to know him when he shows up. But, you can milk something too far, Tommy, Coach. I mean, I'm being honest. It's true.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can. And, I just think I don't know. I think we all cut from the same cloth. We're hardworking guys that were brought up in this. The harder you work, the more the luckier you get. They say, and I just feel like that work ethic and that the loyalty to the commitment and everything else that our generation I feel like grew up in, and it just doesn't exist anymore. And not gonna say anymore. There's a lot of kids out there that are, but there's just. There's too many easy outs. There's too many, I'm not happy, I'm going to get out. And, I think as parents, and I have 2 young girls, I mean, that's one of the main things that I am going to try my hardest to instill in my children is if you start something, finish it and work ethic, and if you're going to do a job, do it right the first time or don't do it at all. I mean, if I had a dime for every time my dad told me that, I would be a millionaire, and I just think that there's too many outs and too many easy things for kids these days to kind of just complain about, do whatever, and have too many options. So, I mean,
I agree with that. I think a lot of those qualities that you talked about that I think are real and lasting that carry over long term. I think a lot of those qualities, and I agree with you, not everyone, but they have been compromised. And I think that's the best word is it's been compromised. And, last year there was a young man in the SEC that was supposedly as a freshman going to be drafted in the top 15 or 20. And the trainer at this particular school had cleared him to play, but his agent said, don't play. So that's the thing you're running into now. The trainer clears the guy to play. The young man decides not to play because somebody's in his ear telling him, wait another 3 weeks or whatever, a month, and make sure you're well. And those are the kinds of things that have creeped into college athletics that I think, really doesn't have a place. And as a head coach, that would put me in a real dilemma. If my trainer cleared a guy to play and he's listening to someone else, I can't help but have some kind of animosity toward that particular player when he's cleared, but won't play because somebody outside of the program has a special interest in him.
Yeah, that's a beyond anything I could ever comprehend as a coach. I would just have to. I mean, I would tell that player, go find somewhere else to play. I mean, just you're gone. I mean, it even starts if you go back all the way to the high school level. High school basketball used to be like the season. Now, high school basketball, and Coach, I'm sure you see this, is the second season. AAU is when these kids really play and really, get seen and get recruited. And you see kids even sitting out of the high school stuff because they don't need to play for their high school because they've already got recruited in their AAU ranks. And
transfer. I mean,
yeah.
They just pop up and go to some prep school somewhere. Yeah.
Right. They're going to Montclair or somewhere else. They're going to Fork Union or going to, wherever they're going to go. And it's just not right. I got a big, but I'm a traditionalist too. I got a big issue with that. Like you commit to a school, especially high school. Come on, man. You're playing for your community or your town. And what these kids don't realize is that like their basketball careers are going to be over pretty quickly. Like most 99% of them are not going to play to get a paycheck playing basketball. They need to enjoy it while they can and play in front of their mom and dad and their community when they can. And even at the college level, like play while you can, because man, I get pissed off. I'm sorry, guys. I could go on for hours about this,
Well, you know what we heard about, y'all talked about other people giving advice to your player. Rocket Sanders, running back out of Rockledge, Florida, running back for Arkansas. He missed a bunch of games this season so far. One of the Arkansas guys on the show this week said he's been out in Dallas with somebody, out there. I mean, no. And you know what I think of college football as a kid? There was a walk-on football player from Opelika, Alabama. 1979, Auburn played NC State. It was a hell of a game in Auburn. I think Auburn won the game pretty big, 44-13 or something. Danny Skutak was a linebacker for Auburn, was Sports Illustrated's National Defensive Player of the Week. He had 13 tackles, 1.5 tackle for loss, and a fumble recovery. He played the whole second half with a broken leg. That is a tough guy. And he, by the way, went on. Coach Dye, I love this guy. He went on, and I think he still does compete some in the toughest man competitions. Danny Skutak. That's son of a big. That's who you want to be at the bar with at 3 a.m. when a fight breaks out. But that's a football player.
In today's world, that could be grounds for termination.
Right.
The coach
is exactly right.
And speaking of meanie coaches, that we could talk about Bob Knight for hours.
Yeah.
But when I was a young high school coach, when I was growing up, and some guy made an impression on me, if a guy my age, maybe 10 years younger or a few years older, if they don't mention Bob Knight as an influence on them, they didn't care anything about how to coach basketball. And Knight was tough, but the ones that stayed with him are loyal to the core. And he wasn't right in everything he did, but the toughness that he instilled in young people carried over into whatever they wanted to do. And I think some of those qualities, as we talked about earlier, have been compromised. I have a high respect and reverence for Bob Knight and what he did for college basketball.
I agree with you, Coach, 100%. I think that my dad used to always tell me, like, when people get on you and you're whether it's coaches, whether they're screaming at you, yelling at you, doing whatever, that's a good thing. When they're not yelling and screaming at you and they're quiet, that means they don't care and they're not paying attention to you. So, I've always thought that Bob Knight, even though he does have that edge to him where he might not do everything exactly right, the fact that he was so passionate about trying to get the most out of those kids and yelling and screaming at them and treating them the way he might have done it. But at the end of the day, those kids that were raised to understand that what he was trying to do are the ones that are loyal to the core, ones that he changed their lives for the better. And, I got no problem with it. It's just a coaching style. Now, I can tell you this, Bob Knight in today's day and age would not be able to coach. And that's a sad thing. That is a sad thing, because as soon as he put his hands or touched a player, or as soon as he got in some kid's, face and was screaming at him, that kid would do a lawsuit or he leave or do whatever, because that's the generation that they're going through right now. And it's sad. But I have the utmost respect for Bob Knight and what he did for the game of basketball on the globe. But I always enjoyed watching his teams play, because you knew what you were going to get.
Yeah,
they're hard-nosed, well-coached, and they were going to run their offenses, and they were going to be in the game. I enjoyed watching them coach.
Yeah, I agree.
And my brother-in-law went to a banking convention. He played football. He's your age, Coach Brady, and Rick played college football 73 to 76 for Virginia Tech. So he ran Dominion Bank, First Union, Wells Fargo, 41 years, was pretty high up in the trust department, all over West Virginia, down into the Carolinas. Bobby Knight was the speaker one time at a banking convention. He said, the thing I'll never forget, he said, was, we won a lot of games in Indiana. He said, but what we do is we start out very simple. We find out every way we can lose the game, and we walk it back from there for our game plan for every game. And look, that kind of coaching, I went to Christian Brothers High School, man. Russell Reed, my freshman year, he got after me a couple of times, and we became very close. I respect. I mean, that's just, there's a right way to do things, and there's a wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Jiminy Cricket says only a fool does things the foolish way, and I'm with both of y'all. Bobby Knight, there ought to be a statue of him. I don't give a damn if he offends people or not. He was trying to get you to be your best, and look at the results. And every coach or teacher I've ever had that I still love and respect were the ones that were relentless about me. I mean, I'll never forget some of the encounters I had with teachers who said, "You've got so much in you, I'm going to get it out of you. Your parents pay a lot of money to send you to school here." That's what coaches and teachers are there for. They're not there to watch you fail. Yeah. And thank God we had a Coach Knight.
Yeah, well, when I was coaching and recruiting, we had these criteria that size for position, how high they could jump, how quick they were, could they shoot it, all those kinds of physical qualities. But one quality I always added in a potential recruit was toughness. I thought toughness was a talent. And if I saw a guy that was talented and he didn't have that quotient in him, I would take a lesser talented guy that had a toughness and a competitive nature with him, because I believe I could bring that guy to another level because he wanted it that bad. And
that's right.
The toughness talent, the toughness part of the talent to me was as important as how high he could jump.
I couldn't agree with you more, Coach. Like, you give me somebody who's going to dive on the floor and not care about getting bloody knees and a bloody nose or whatever, and going to play hard. I can teach him how to shoot better. I can teach him how to play the game better. I can't teach that toughness. That's an innate thing. And that's why I always pull for the guys that are out there that that don't stuff the stat sheet. They might get you 8 points and maybe 5 or 6 rebounds, but they're going to play a heck of a hard amount of defense, and they're going to be sweating and dripping off the floor by the time they get off that court because they've been playing hard. And that's the kind of kid that you love to coach, you love to have on your team, and you love to pull for, really, frankly. You're
talking about yourself too a little bit there.
Yeah. What's that?
You're talking about yourself a little bit too there. Loved it was tough and wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
Tommy, look, I know you said you got to scoot, but love having you on. Let's do it again next Friday. Thank you so much for taking time to share with us. I love the Wolf Pack in the background, Pack Productions. Tell people how they can follow you and get hold of you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Pack 30 Productions, PACK30 Productions on the internet, on the web, on my video production work, and in talent work on my hosting and acting and everything else. You follow me on, you can look me up on the internet on Tommy Kane Talent, and then follow me on Instagram at Tommy Kane _talent. I appreciate you having me on, Rob. Coach, always good to see you. Gentlemen, have a great weekend, and go Wolfpack.
All right, go Pack. Take care, man. Hey, Coach, I mean, the thing is, I never met Bobby Knight. A couple of years ago, Frank said, "Come down here." You were having that party in New Orleans when the Final Four was there. He said, "Come down here. I've got my place ready to go." I wish I would have been able to. I've got a lot going on in my other job as a financial advisor, and we do this 6 days a week, the two of them together, but it never feels like work, getting to talk to people like you and Tommy. And you're right. The guys that I remember, probably my favorite player, and I'm not, this doesn't mean any disrespect to anyone else, but my favorite Auburn player of all time probably is Lionel Little Train James. 5'7", 178 pounds, out of Daughtery High School in Albany, Georgia. I was there November 10th, 1979. Auburn beat Mississippi State 14-3. They wore orange jerseys. James Brooks had a 66-yard touchdown run late. It was kind of a cold, ugly, rainy day, and Auburn won the game. But I saw him outside the locker room on his recruiting visit. He had on his Letterman's jacket, and there were so many medals he'd won on there. He looked like George Patton. But he was just a guy that, he just gave you everything he had, and he never told you how tall he was or wasn't. I mean, as a coach, it must be a dream come true for you to have guys that have struggled with a lot of things in life. Maybe they came where, I talked to a football coach the other day. He was telling me about a kid that he recruited down in South Alabama. He said, man, there were 12 kids in that family. I went out to visit them, and I was just listening to the family talk. The kid had to get up every morning at about 5 and go gather firewood to get the wood burning stove going. And just little things like that. And it was a yes or no, sir. He goes, I watched how he treated his siblings and his parents. That stuff matters, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Albany, Georgia, and Daugherty High School. When I was at Mississippi State as an assistant coach, we signed a player from there named Todd Merritt. 6'8", tough. Daddy was wonderful. The family was just the best. And Todd had a great career at Mississippi State, won the SEC and went to the NCAA tournament when he was there. And I remember early, maybe his sophomore year, we went to the NIT and we were playing Baylor at Mississippi or TCU at Mississippi State. And he got hit in the nose. His nose started bleeding. And he came in at a timeout and he stuck a piece of cotton up in his nose. And it was coming out of his nose about a half inch, and he played the rest of the game with that thing packed up in his nose. I mean, he was a great competitor. And those kind of guys, you love to see them do well and love to see them have success.
You really do. And you know, and you're looking right now what you're going through at LSU, watching them rebuild. You've got some scrappers and some fighters out there. And you look around the league, you get to go to all these different venues, and you've been all over the country. College basketball, college football, you're right. You can teach them to be a better shooter and all that other stuff. You can't teach them to be tougher. But here's my question. People say in today's world, you can't do it. I believe you can. I don't believe in ever, lowering the standards. I think toughness, because like you think about your own kids. Would you be soft on your own kids? I'm not.
Right.
And I know you wouldn't be. I bet your kids are super successful.
Well, my two daughters, they're doing well. They're the way I describe it is they're really out of daddy's pocket. And I think that's a success story right there.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. And I agree with one thing that Tim Floyd said when we did a clinic here. I think you can still coach them hard, but I also think you have to have more individual meetings with them and tell them where you think they are in the concept of the team and where they fit and what they need to do, and let them give their feedback. I think more open discussion as opposed to just having it a one-way street with the coach. I think the more time you can spend with them one-on-one, and they know you care about them really, because I think a lot of them are insecure these days. They question things, and I think the more you can relieve that anxiety that may be created, I think you can still demand and hold them accountable and coach them, relatively hard. Yeah,
Bo Carter, Coach John Brady's on here with us right now.
You see him, man.
Bo Carter's a legend.
No, hey,
Bo Cephas.
How do you know Bo Carter, man?
Man, I believe it or not, it's Idiot Savant Friday as well as tomorrow. We call it Savant Saturday. Back in 1979, I started getting the SEC Sports Journal that Ben Cook did out of Birmingham, and Bo Carter was always the writer for Mississippi State. And then my friend Dave Cody told me about 2 years ago, he said, Bo Carter follows, you on Facebook with Sidelines. And I said, oh, my God, I'd love to have that guy on the show. And that's how it happened. And he is one of the oracles of journalism, along with Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America out there in Texas. So I love this stuff, man. Coach, when you're on, here it is. This is Austin City Limits. Again, we got these great writers and coaches. Can't get any better.
Hey, look, let me tell you about Bo Carter. I wish I could be like Bo Carter. There's not anyone I've ever met that knows Bo that would ever say anything derogatory about him. Everybody likes Bo Carter. Everybody doesn't like John Brady. Let me just tell you. I'm envious of that.
Coach, I was thinking about you after Bob Knight passed. I know y'all were talking about it a little bit, but man, he and our old friend Bob Boyd were best. They talk on the phone just about every day, if you remember.
Yeah, I got to meet Knight with Coach Boyd. We went and played up in Indianapolis at a tournament there. And I was sitting, and Coach Boyd said, Brady, come over here. We're going to have lunch with Bob Knight. I was like, holy moly, this is big time. And Knight,
Wow.
Coach Boyd introduced me. He said, this is John Brady. He's from Macomb, Mississippi, Coach Knight. What do you think about that? and Coach Knight looked at me and he says, let me tell you what. He said, we kicked your ass in the Civil War. That was the first thing he ever said to me. And I sat back and I said, well, Coach, we were doing pretty good till we ran out of money. And he said, he stopped for a minute. He says, that's the best damn reply I've ever had to that question.
Oh, man. I love it.
But to sit there with those two guys and watch them interact was really, I was 26 years old or something like that. I mean, that was a treat to sit down and hear those two legends of the game and outstanding coaches carry on with each other and just talk and visit with them. It was really cool to do.
It is. I mean, I never met Bobby Knight, but I saw him throw a chair or two. I mean, golly, I asked my kids what it was like growing up with me watching Auburn play. Just the statute of limitations has run out. But he wanted to win, he was passionate. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with it. Ken, all of y'all on here, you've covered some pretty fired up coaches in your day. Oh my God. Look who's in the background there is that Bevo?
No, that's not Bevo. People ask me that all the time. That would be bad karma if that was Bevo.
Wow. That's good.
Now this is I finally moved. I've had some people tell me, Ken, you need to get a better background in your office. You need to have a better setup like Rob does. So I've moved to my home office here in Dallas in the Metroplex, and
Yes,
and so this is my home office. Bo's been to our house, and so this is my little kingdom here. And I've got a Bevo. I've got a Longhorn steer that I got at a auction when a steakhouse went out of business here in Dallas, and so that's what
I love it. I love it. Hey, Coach Brady, man, this is fun. Yancy Porter's about to come on. Got to say one last thing for you. Let's do this again next Friday. We're getting closer with basketball now. Mm-hmm. What's going on at LSU, Ole Miss? Any closing comments for people, what they can be looking forward to in college basketball? Memphis is a basketball junkie city. It's Grizzlies and Tigers every day of the year. Don't forget about football. They got a pretty good football team at Memphis too. But leave us with some parting thoughts and wisdom that you might tell the basketball public that would get them excited.
Well, I'm hoping LSU improves to get off the bottom four in the SEC. I think that would be a reachable goal, and I think it'd be a positive thing for this team to be able to do. And I think the SEC is really good this year. I think it's top heavy, as we talked about last week. I think the top 5 or 6 teams in the league are really good, and I think it's going to be a fight for the bottom 6 teams to try to beat each other up. So it's going to be another exciting year. But the thing rolling around Baton Rouge right now is Alabama, LSU football Saturday. Oh, yeah. They're not even thinking about basketball till that game is over. So that's going to be a big one on Saturday. And I'm certainly going to tune in and watch that thing.
And by the way, we had Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 on in Baton Rouge yesterday. And I said, what's a restaurant that nobody really knows about in Baton Rouge? And he named some convenience store right down the street, not Best Stop, but one of them that has unbelievable food. So CJ's on Thursdays comes over to Wynn, Arkansas from Searcy, Arkansas, the Cajun food truck. I got the Atchafalaya yesterday. It is a huge boat stuffed full of crawfish etouffee with 3 pieces of tender catfish on top of it.
Well, Jock's one of my favorite guys, man. That's good you had him on. I love Jock.
He's fantastic. I'm going to tell you, and Scott Rabelais, and we also have Jimmy Ott on a lot, but he's busy with that Bet Rivers. But great people down there. And, Coach, thank you so much for taking time to share with us today. Looking forward to having you on again next Friday if you'll join us, and let people know how they can keep up with you, because tough times don't last forever, but tough people do.
You asked me that. I have no idea how you. They got to figure it out.
Well, lots and lots of wisdom in these frames from Maury Gaston. I agree. Coach, have a great weekend.
Good to see you, Bo. All right.
All right.
Coach,
Take care. Thank you.
Good luck. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Live from the Metroplex, it's Ken Capps, Bo Carter, and the reporters. Ken, can you come up a little bit on your frame there? Because every time I put those questions on there, I don't want to wipe you out, but I do love the background. Look. You see what Barnwood Brenda, my friend down in Batesville, Mississippi, built for me out of cypress? Hand carved. It's the new SEC. Okay. What's the thing that sticks out the most? Which school?
Oh, I know. In fact, I was going to ask you about that and see. I didn't know where that came from, but do you think she can build me one and I'll pay her for it?
Yeah, I mean, $800 is all it is, and it's hand carved. Yeah, okay. It's all it is. Yeah,
well,
it's only.
Well,
yeah,
since I'm just a poor sports writer, maybe she could put me on a payment plan or something.
Yeah, I'll have to ask her. She makes them out of barn. This was made out of cypress.
It's beautiful.
Yes, it really is. And I've got some cotton bowls on there that we picked over here off of Highway 64 near Levesque, Arkansas. By the way, there's a guy, J. Rodney Scroggins Jr. III. He has been naked up on a billboard on Highway 64, he's fasting until Arkansas wins an SEC game. Woo. He's been up there since the weekend of the BYU game.
Well, he's getting pretty skinny then.
He's real skinny. He looks like an axe handle.
Wow.
Yeah,
well, if Sam Pittman was doing that, he'd be real skinny.
Yeah, he might only weigh 230 pounds. But I'm going to tell you what, guys. Love having Coach Brady on. We had Tommy Kane on also in that first segment from over in Charlotte. Ken, I love your topic. Yancy Porter should be joining us in a minute. He's either on the golf course, on the way to the golf course, or he's blowing it off so he can be on here and look at that big steer in the background. Here you go.
And I've also Cooper Manning was talking about his boy Arch this week too. So yeah. I wanted to I always wait till Yancy comes on so I can give him the Arch Manning update. So
okay, and I'm texting him right now. So I'm going to put up here your topics. And there's a lot of questions coming in on the YouTube, and I get a ton of them on the text line, and then I have to type them. Mildred, my transcriber, is on strike. She wants me to raise her daily wage from $1.97 to $2.09. I'll have to take that up with the board. But Ken,
is she after a SAG? So maybe she's on strike with those guys out there in LA.
Yes, she is. She's a Hollywood writer. She is. All right, Ken Capps topics, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, Bedlam. I love it.
Yes, let's talk Bedlam. The final Bedlam, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody, get out their Kleenex. It's tomorrow in Stillwater.
Yeah,
2:30.
Yeah,
2:30. And so I've been monitoring the Coach Venables and Coach Gundy this week, and I thought the interesting thing I called it, is it going to be a spit show? Not the other one, but is it going to be a spit show in Stilly tomorrow? Because Mike Gundy continues to be very, very kind of non-sentimental about the end of Bedlam. And he said the whole rivalry is really diminished. And he said, back in the old days, they used to spit on each other, and that Mike Bosworth, Brian Bosworth. How could I forget him, man? Brian Bosworth spit on Gundy, and Gundy spit on Bosworth back in the days when they played. And now Now the kids get together after the game and hug on each other and talk about their NIL deals and where they want to play in the NFL. And so after he said that this week, Bosworth got on social media and said that Gundy was dead wrong, that it's still a big rivalry, that Big Brother still wants to whoop little brother's you know what, and it starts with an A and ends with an S, 3 letters, and that Bosworth is willing to meet Mike Gundy at the 50-yard line pregame in T-Boone Stickens Stadium on tomorrow, and quote, exchange pleasantries before the game tomorrow. So now, first of all, I didn't know that the Boz could invite the home team's coach on his own field to meet. But I guess if you're the Boz, you can do whatever you want to. Yeah. And then, so I don't know what all that means, but I just thought that was interesting that they were spitting on each other back in the day. And then if you looked at my tweet that I put up on Football Writers this week, I thought it was interesting what Coach Gundy said about back in the day when he was playing against his brother Cale up in Oklahoma. And he said that when his mother was around 365 days a year, the topic of Oklahoma and OU was never brought up. It was not at the dinner table. They didn't bring it up ever, ever, ever. And so I thought that was very interesting that you could have your 2 sons playing at the opposite schools there in Oklahoma. And but Mama said it ain't coming up in our house. And so I guess that's a good way to avoid controversy and spitting at the dinner table.
And Cale coached against him for 23. Cale was on the Oklahoma staff till like a year ago, and they were at Big 12 Media Days, Rob. And Cale's got a radio show, and Mike refuses to go on his show.
Oh my God!
He's been ripping. He has been on this OU Texas Bedlam thing. I mean OU Oklahoma State since media days back in August or July.
Well, you know who wants to weigh in on this? Do you remember this wise old sage? Used to be on TV all the time. Tell me if you don't remember some of the sage advice of this guy. Can you hear it?
No siree. No fool.
Yeah.
If you want to be right, do things the right way. Because if you do things the wrong way, that's the foolish way. And only fools do things the foolish way, which is the wrong way. Right? Anyway, let's see.
So think about that. I get the biggest kick out of those Jimmy and Cricket things. I'm no fool, no siree. But think about this. These rivalries. And Ken, you just alluded to it. And Bo, your comments are right too. They get together after the game. Sure, you're going to shake hands and everything like that. But rivalries are good. I mean, look, I got a lot of Alabama friends and Georgia friends. But on game day, hey, man, everything's on the table. I mean, like I say, Mallory, the oldest daughter now on the team, we can watch the game together, but there may be some words that are not allowed on this show said.
Exactly.
That's fun. Okay. And a damn thing wrong with it. Rivalries are what fuel interest, folks. I mean, it's normal.
And Bedlam, I mean, this will be the 118th Bedlam.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
118th. And the fact that this thing is going away for the foreseeable future,
Yeah.
It's been played for so long. It's going away for the foreseeable future. And it's going away with pretty much no sentimentality, no fanfare. Is really ticking me off. But let me give you the other side of this real quick. And I'm glad to see Yancy's joined us now. Mm-hmm. Let me give you the other side of this real quick. And I'm very, very impressed with Coach Venables on this over at Oklahoma. Coach Venables has named his 5 captains for this week. and they are all born and bred in Oklahoma and played all of their high school ball in Oklahoma. One of them being Drake Stoops, Bob's boy.
Yeah. Oops.
And but I thought that was a really class move. And he said, in fact, this was on my tweet too this week. And I said, he said that the reason that he did that was these five young men have a little bit different perspective and on the importance of Bedlam. And it kind of brought a tear to my eye because if you're a native Oklahoman and you've grown up there and played your high school ball there and you've known nothing, but Oklahoma versus OSU your whole life, that's a big damn deal.
Yes.
And so I think that's very appropriate for those five young men to be the captains against Oklahoma State, and I really applaud him for doing that. And I'll just say one thing before I get off my topic. I want to know, because if my wife may be watching this from New Orleans today, that's not my spelling of Bedlam. That must be Rob Browne's spelling.
It's BDDLUM.
Yeah, so I don't want people around the country to think that a football writer, Association of American member, is misspelling Bedlam. So that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Yancy Porter's back on the stage. That was a clerical error. When you have the writer's strike and Mildred not typing, this is what happens when when a layman puts fingers to the keyboard. So I've got to say this. And again, the misspelling. Shame on those who are allowing Bedlam to end. That from Cletus in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. That's up there in Choctaw, or is that Cherokee country? When you cross on Interstate 40 in from Arkansas to Oklahoma, the first sign you see is 10 Killer State Recreation Area right up there. But then you get off there. If you go to Tulsa, you get off and you go up through Tecumseh, maybe Broken Arrow, Okmulgee. Man, that's cool. And then you get on the Arkansas River there.
That's some pretty country too.
It is absolutely gorgeous. There's so much history out there. And I'm with you. 118 edition of the Bedlam. Yancy, how many years have Ole Miss and Mississippi State been getting together to sing Kumbaya at the 50-yard line in football?
Too long. I don't know. 130 years. It's been a long time.
Well, by God, golly!
I'm sitting here
like
watching the stock market right now on the Money Channel, CNBC, and just amazed that it's not only fans that overreact, right, to sporting events. You look at the market, and Powell doesn't bump it up on quarter basis point one time. He even says that there still could be inflationary moves in the future, and the market's going crazy, right? I mean, this week has been absolutely astounding. So it's not only fans for sporting events. Everybody overreacts in everything in life.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
And, people, I see it. I mean, 32 years in that business. And you know what? It's always darkest before dawn. And we all think the portal and the NIL are going to destroy college athletics. They're not. You know why? Because the fans are not going to allow it to happen. Anybody want to weigh in on that? But Cletus and Okmulgee, you're right. Shame on those who are allowing Bedlam to end. May they have Sirius and Sebarius and forever. I mean, that's I don't like that. I mean, somebody jump in, but we got to have rivalries for football.
Well, and if you listen to Mike Gundy tell it, and he's been preaching this ever since Big 12 Media Days, he says, blame it on Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma that is leaving to go to the SEC, and that's why Bedlam is ending. And then when asked about, what about doing a Oklahoma State game maybe at week 0 to start the season? I asked this, both coaches said, and of course I know the coaches don't make the schedules. I totally get that. But, both were very adamant to say, hey, we don't make the schedules.
Yeah.
I know our schedules are very, are made out for the next, 5, 10, however many years. And so, but somebody did make a good point, and this may come about. And how cool would this be? With so many ties between the Big 12 and the SEC in bowl games, maybe there will be an Oklahoma State in a bowl game. How cool would that be? Now that would be awesome.
Love that. Yeah.
And this series actually started before Oklahoma was still a territory until 1909, and they started playing football.
Well, some people think Oklahoma still is a territory.
Yeah, it still is. I think they had to have the governor out, the territorial governor out to okay the series, I guess.
Yes, yeah. Well, you were there for that.
No, it was the Old West. Yes, I was around.
Yeah, you took your cover wagon down, and now you live in Carrollton.
Mm-hmm. The 89ers out there. We the Sooners. We broke through the land rush there.
But well, the other thing though, I knew that Rob would like my topic about Gene Chizik. Being the Auburn man that he is.
Yeah.
And he and Mac are back together there, and are back together there in North Carolina. And of course, Chizik was. Of course, we have a lot of love for Chizik down here in Texas because he was the defensive coordinator, for the national championship year, and for the big Rose Bowl when Vince ran it in, and beat Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush and crew.
Yeah.
And he did win a national championship at Auburn, so he's not all bad, right?
No.
But he's been off for 5 years, and he came back last year. And he and Mac have a long history, and it looked, and everybody said, "Hey, you've been gone for 5 years. We know it's going to take you a while to kind of get back in the groove." And there have been some rule changes in 5 years, and it looked, when North Carolina was 6-0 this year, everything was going, everything's fine, right? But these last 2 games, this week the Fire Gene Chizik social posts went up, and 70 points allowed in the last 2 games to very inferior opponents, blown leads both times, defensive collapses. And now, North Carolina has gone from being in that hunt for a CFP berth to now just, possibly playing for the ACC championship, and they might not even be doing that. So I was just noticing how the bloom came off of Gene Chizik very, very quick here in the last couple of weeks.
Well, golly, when you give up almost 700 yards like they did, 342 on the ground to North Carolina, boy, that'll get dead people coming out of their graves raising hell.
246 yards rushing in the fourth quarter to Georgia Tech last week.
That's third world bad. And 2 years after Auburn won the national championship in 2010, Gene Chizik presided over the worst Auburn football team in 62 years since 1950 when Wofford beat Auburn. They fired the coach. The minute the new governor, Gordon Person, was sworn in, as governor of Alabama, my first job will be to relieve Earl Browne of his coaching duties at the Alabama Polytechnic Institute, and we'll bring in Ralph Shug Jordan. And he and Ralph Beard, the athletic director, went down to Auburn National Bank on a handshake deal and borrowed $100,000. Auburn was so broke at the time they couldn't pay attention. Yancy, jump into this conversation. We got your Ole Miss Rebels, man, and then we're going to get in, to a lot, but you're at 7-1 right now. And we had Brock Kreitz on the round table last Saturday. That was a lot of fun. But what's different about this Ole Miss team that's 7-1 versus last year's team that was 7-1, other than the way the schedule was back end loaded last year? It's different this year.
Well, I think for one, you look at the quarterback position. Jackson Dart was a first-year starter, 18-year-old kid last year. He's still only 19, which is really young.
Holy cow.
But then you look at number 2 defensively. They're just a lot better. I think last year's defense finished 96. Right now, they're 51 total defense, 41 giving up points, 39 run defense. The pass defense, which was struggling a little bit earlier, has really sewn things up. They moved up from like 81 to about 54 in the country. So defense and quarterback.
Yeah.
But that always helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly with any team, right? You always start with the quarterback, and then you go to the line of scrimmage. And I think last year's defensive line was really, really good. The problem is you weren't playing but three of them.
Mhm.
And when you've got 12, 13 guys that literally, are SEC caliber players, and you're only playing three guys with two linebackers behind them, a five-man defensive front just does not spell success. And that, a lot of people put that on Partridge. Really, truthfully, Lane fell in love with it when he went up against that at Arkansas 2 years prior. And that's the famous Matt Corral game when he threw 7 interceptions. So he fell in love with that. And, but now he's got Golding, someone that he totally trusts with the defense. Golding is an incredible defensive coordinator. And he's doing really, I mean, he's probably the MVP of the team right now in my eyes.
You know, what's interesting is the fact that Lane Kiffin coached 3 years under Nick Saban, Pete Golding 4 years. They also they can both compare what they learned and use it in a positive way. Bo, and Ken, Ole Miss right now, if they win out and let's see LSU beats Alabama, then Ole Miss goes to Atlanta for the first time ever for the SEC championship game. What?
No, that's not true there, Rob.
That's right. Yeah, there's that goofy thing.
You got the SEC East and the combined conference record of your two opponents in the SEC East. Which Ole Miss has Vandy. So that really hurts them. They've got Georgia, so you're probably looking at 7-1 if Ole Miss were able to beat Georgia, assuming to even come down to this. And then you got Vandy, who will be lucky to get one win. And then on the other side, you've got LSU that has Missouri and I believe Kentucky. If I'm not sure, I have to look at the second one. Can anybody remember who else LSU played in the East? Missouri. And so I know it's better than
Florida. They'll play Florida.
Florida. It's en route to be better than Ole Miss and Alabama's Eastern Conference teams. So if that were to happen, unless Missouri goes on a losing streak, it looks like it'll be LSU out of all the schools. Now, how wild would that be?
Boy, Frank Duffy will be dancing in the streets.
Yes, he will.
But I really think, I mean, having to beat Georgia, 2 times in a month, one at their place, one, practically at their place in Atlanta, even though Ole Miss would bring everybody and their mother over to Atlanta. I think that's really a difficult chore. I think their best route to making the playoffs is to win out and get in with one loss in the playoffs. There's only one SEC team that did not get in the playoffs with one loss, and that was A&M. And that's when they played 7 regular season games during the COVID years. So
or 10.
10? No.
Yeah.
I believe it was
they played
8.
10.
They had 8 conference scheduled games. They canceled the Ole Miss game before Ole Miss played them, and maybe they rescheduled another team in their place. I think it was 8 regular season, or was it 9 regular season games?
Well, yeah, you're right, Yancy. They scheduled 10 SEC regular season games, and then several of the A&M players had a fungus or something. I don't know what happened. Yeah, okay. They couldn't play, but you're right. A&M went 9-1 that year and beat North Carolina in the bowl game. But you know what? If I'm Ole Miss, just win. I mean, Al Davis, just win, baby. By the way, his son, you can see the soup stains on the side of his head with that bowl haircut he's got. Good God, that kind of money, jeez. But anyway, Ole Miss wins out, and they're 11-1. There's no way you're going to keep them out of the playoffs.
No, not being the first time to beat Georgia in 3 years and winning at Georgia. There's no way they will. Now,
Yeah.
they will get left out if you've got 4 or 5 undefeated teams from the Power 5 conferences,
Mhm.
which we think is going to happen every single year. And does it ever happen? No.
No.
You know, you'll even have 2 or 3 undefeated teams going into the conference championship games. And what happens every single year? One comes out unscathed. There's one team that's undefeated. And this time of the year, every year, you think there's 4, 5, 6 teams that are going to be undefeated. You're talking about, well, which one gets left out, right? It always works itself out.
Yeah.
By the way, let me just say one thing. I did some math. Ole Miss and Mississippi have played each other 117 times.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
One less than Bedlam. We got to take a quick break. Let's take a quick break from one of our sponsors we're proud to have up in Nashville. And we'll be right back. Got a lot to talk about. Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, Bo Carter, National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America, Yancy Porter from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch them Monday nights, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis, 6 p.m., and Super Talk Mississippi. And as Jane Hathaway in Tulsa, Oklahoma says, college football will be stronger because the fans won't allow the kids to ruin it. That's right. You got kids of your own. You know what? Don't let them set the mood in the house. You set the mood. You know why? Because you're in charge. We'll be right back.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
All right, we are back here with this distinguished panel of scholars. It looks like the oracles of Delphi. And because everyone on here is of age and has a strong literary background, we can all imagine from watching the Beverly Hillbillies for years. And remember when Jane Hathaway would wear a swimsuit? Yeah, man, that's as scary as it gets. But Ken, you were about to make some really salient points, and and I love it when I have y'all on here. Yes, you were, and Dudley Dawson from Hogville.net. The other day, he used the term metaphorically on the show. We have a lot of erudite scholars on here, and I get a lot of feedback from people. Don't use big words out of context just to use big words, because then you really look dumb.
That's right.
But I like, Yancy was saying metaphorically. Mine that I default to is if something is here and here is diametrically opposing.
Diametrically opposed. That's right.
I like that one. Ken,
I've got a whole list to share with you. One Friday, I'll have to share with you my list of cliches I can't stand. Maybe we should do that one Friday. I've got a whole list that I things I will not say. Like end of the day, to your point.
That being said.
That said, oh my gosh. But hey,
you ready for this one in TV? As you can see behind me, a large cold front is coming from the Pacific Northwest, should be sweeping through the Midwest about midweek. But here's my pet peeve. Real quick. The new thing in TV now is on the Weather Channel. The worst was back in 1998 when TV started going, a man is shot today while walking to the football game in Austin. A man was shot. Now the other thing that they do that's so obnoxious, the Weather Channel will say, now this winter weather storm could affect 173 million people as it could. Oh my God. They're drama queens. Okay, but anyway, go ahead, kids.
Well, I'm just glad that I've been waiting for Yancy to come on, because I'm always looking for an Arch Manning update. So I can share that with Yancy, because I know that he's always saying that the message boards out there are always of keen interest of what's going on with him. And so I just read the funniest article, and it was about his dad, Cooper. And apparently Cooper was talking to TMZ Sports this past week and really did a really fun, lighthearted interview with them, and said that he was and Dad said that he was completely fine with how Arch is doing at the University of Texas, and that he said, quote, he has a long way to go to reach his potential, which is completely fine. And he said, well, if you remember at the beginning of the year, if you recall, at the beginning of the year, Arch lost his photo ID a couple of times, and people were nice enough to turn it in and give it back to him. And he goes, and this is what his dad said. He said, I'm surprised he hadn't lost his book bag, his car keys, his car. So I thought that was really funny. And then somebody asked him, well, are you disappointed that he's not seen the field yet? And he said, oh, not at all. He goes, I got the line here. He goes, I just want to see if he can pass English right now. So I'm just glad to see that the Mannings, and especially his dad, who's in charge of this thing when it's all boils down to it, are very happy with where he is. And, tomorrow Texas plays Kansas State, and Malik Murphy is going to start again. He did a good job last week against BYU. He did have a couple of, turnovers, but that was his first game to ever start, but still played a very good game. Manning was warming up on the sidelines, and there was a chance he could get in. Sark addressed that after the game, and he said, I just didn't feel a good rhythm there for a place to put him in. But you can rest assured that there's a possibility that Manning could get in tomorrow. Now, again, K-State is coming in hot. They are right up there in the Big 12 standings, and they are coming in loaded for bear into Austin tomorrow. But remember, Arch can still play 4 games and keep his red shirt. So never fear, Texas fans, Manning fans, that he still may get on the field this year before the season is over. But I was just really glad to see Cooper being so confident and kind of lighthearted about his boy. Yancy.
Yeah, excuse me while I go puke by hearing all that. I mean, Coop's a dear friend of mine, and all the Mannings, and just hearing it over there at Texas hurts. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
No, but in all honesty, Cooper's one of the funniest people you ever meet, and you look at Eli's journey at Ole Miss. He did not start playing until his redshirt sophomore year. So he waited 2 years, complete years. Forget playing 4 games and keeping a redshirt. I'm talking about did not enter the game until his 23rd game at Ole Miss in the infamous Music City Bowl against West Virginia when Ole Miss was down, I believe it was 38-7 or 45-7, something like that at halftime, and they put him in and almost won the game. So, the Mannings are not, well, they're very intelligent, savvy people. They know that, they're not looking for their kids to come in and start from day one. Obviously, Peyton got that opportunity with a couple quarterback injuries ahead of him. That was unexpected. But no, Cooper's not looking for Arch to come in there and be a starter his freshman year. I doubt he even really cares if he's the starter next year, to be honest. Or Arch. I think they want them to get adapted academically, socially. They're looking at the big picture, the long haul, and not short, immediate gratification.
Well, and I said, I don't know if Yancy, if you were on last week when I said this, when we were talking about, Malik Murphy taking over for Ewers, who, was sitting on the bench last week, not even wearing pads. And so, he may not be back until the Big 12 championship game if Texas makes it that far. But But the big saying and the big cliche over at Texas has been for decades has been the most popular guy on the Texas football team is the second string quarterback. And in this case, it may be the third string quarterback, who's Arch Manning, but now Arch is the second string quarterback. So now he's going to be the most popular kid on the football team.
Well, I watched a good bit of that game of Texas. I just wanted to see Malik and see if Arch got in there. I've known little Arch since he's about 3 years old. So, with the relationship I have with that family, I have a personal interest in them. And, maybe I'm biased, but Malik's not the answer there at Texas. He's not a pure thrower whatsoever. Got a great body, great physical body that can, I think, bring some dynamic parts of the game to an offense. But he's not the answer. Short and quick. It will be Arch Manning going forward after, whenever he decides to go in the NFL. We'll see if that's this year or next year.
Yeah, Ken, or Bo, one of y'all, what is Quinn Ewers' status right now, health-wise?
I think he's out again this week, Ken, from all I can tell.
Yeah.
He's got some gun shoulder.
Well, like I said, Sark keeps saying he's week to week.
Yeah.
And, which I think, well, of course he is. Everybody's week to week for that matter. But, he's never said he's out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks or whatever. And, but anyway, and again, what do I know? I'm not down there in the training room, but, he doesn't look like he's ready to play anytime soon. Now, again, he's probably going to come back and play next week, after I say that. But, I think it's going to be Malik for the immediate future. But, if Texas would have a blowout game, they play TCU next week in Fort Worth. So who knows? Maybe Arch could come in that game if it's a blowout in Fort Worth. Who knows? But I don't know. But that's going to be a very interesting question. If would Quinn come out and go to the NFL this year? Because he's only played 2 years and he's been hurt both years, and so he may not be a very high draft pick. So he still may come back next year, and that would still leave a pecking order of Ewers, Malik, and Manning. And then, of course, they would compete all again in the spring. And who knows how that shakes out.
Yeah, and let me say something real quick about one of our sponsors, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, starting Thanksgiving weekend, they'll be open on Sundays, 1 to 5 p.m. Up through Christmas, all right? Charles Hall, his wife Laura, Raven, great people out there. They've got the largest collection of duck heads I've ever seen. They've got everything. They've also they're the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's cowboy boots. They've got toy guns and stuff for the kids to play with. They've got the best selection of jeans, Devil Dog jeans, Wranglers. They've got Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors, Higher Boots, Light Boot, Vask Boots. I got some new Danners, the mid-cut boots. They're fantastic for walking around in. I love this place. They've got unbelievable Ariat shirts. They've got T-shirts. They've got rock mount shirts that Elvis Presley, Ronald Wilson Reagan, and Bob Dylan wear. Great looking stuff. HewlettandDunn.com. They will deliver anywhere. So just remember that, as will Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Check them out on the website, redriverfordtoyota.com. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Service department open 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Went out there, met the new service manager, Lynn Hutchison, yesterday. And wow, they sent a video to me of the technician who was doing my oil service and my tires being rotated and balanced. Told us everything going on in there. It was I've never seen that. I called Lynn and told him that's really, really impressive.
Class.
And ECS House Industries over in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, 99,000 square foot warehouse. They make the aerators for the catfish farms, folks. If you love catfish, thank the folks at ECS House Industries. They make them. They're sold all over America, all around the world, as well as the Better Roller, the Pulverizer, the Better Chopper. technology used in agriculture to be more efficient for farmers. Don't ever talk disparagingly about farmers with your mouth full. Don't ever forget that. ECS House Industries, proud to have them as a sponsor, as we are also Tom Martin's Body Shop, G.E. Patterson and BB King, downtown Memphis, Rumble Boxing, Gateway Tire and Service, Boy Scouts, Reforest, Mississippi, Web-Footed Kennel up in Jonesboro, Gaddis Home Innovation, Miss Rubens Rubs, May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa and Northport, Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition, and Kitchens Unlimited. Folks, we're blessed to have great sponsors and great guests. We have the best guests you will find anywhere. Some really smart people. Let's get in now. We got about 15 minutes left. We'll start with Bo. There's a football game going to be played tomorrow. Besides, I know we're talking about Bedlam and all. LSU and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. LSU only has 14 sacks on the season. Alabama's defense is really good. Quarterback versus quarterback, you got to give the edge to LSU. But the game's played at Bryant-Denny. They'll be playing Dixieland Delight, going crazy, the light show, doing everything. They'll be barking at the moon, howling. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Who comes out on top? Bo Carter, and then we'll go to Ken, and then Yancy.
Home field advantage for Alabama. And I was going to tell Yancy, too. I really enjoyed Coop on the I know Ken watched this, the College Bowl show. You remember?
Yeah.
And Peyton Coop was the best straight man for Peyton's line. I don't know who wrote Screen Actors Guild writer wrote that or whatever. But that
Mildred.
Yeah, that's right. And Yancy, the other big mystery is Mississippi State has been more quiet about the Will Rogers. One of my friends down there thinks he's out for the season because he went out on the field and shook hands with everybody with his left shoulder dangling down or what. But I've never seen a coach not address an injury for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And that's but anyway, I give the edge to Alabama at home.
Ken?
Well, I know that Frank Duffy is on his way out there, if he's not there already, in his Tiger bus. So I hope he's ready to have fun. And by the way, I just got a text. Y'all were talking about those places to eat in Baton Rouge, and one of them being in a convenience store. My buddy Ronnie Johnson says Maxwell's Market on Perkins fits that description. So
what's it called? Maxwell. I'm gonna put it up here.
Maxwell's Market on Perkins.
Okay. In Baton Rouge.
Yep.
Okay.
That's in a convenience store.
Okay.
So this, just like last week, and of course LSU is a heck of a lot better than Kansas. But this is a huge trap game, just like Kansas was for Oklahoma. This is a huge trap game for Alabama. And, I agree with Bo, though. I think it's going to be tough to beat Alabama at Bryant-Denny. But, man, I think it's going to be tough. So I'm going to give Alabama the edge, but huge trap game.
Yancy Porter.
Sorry about that. I've gone back and forth, but I've said it all year. This is the biggest matchup problem for Alabama on their schedule. I'm going to LSU 38-35.
Woo!
I don't think Bama can really slow down that LSU offense. I don't think anybody can. But if Alabama wins this game, I predict them to win out and win the national championship. That's my prediction.
Interesting point. Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, now the new sports director there at Channel 9, said on the show yesterday, I think at this point in the season, the LSU offense has more yards and been more productive than the 2019 LSU team was. That's a hell of a statement to make. Jaden Daniels added about 12 pounds in the offseason. He is playing his ass off. You know what? I wonder if he's been to Maxwell's Market on Perkins in Baton Rouge.
I bet he has.
See, that's probably why. And by the way, there's a food truck that comes from Searcy, Arkansas. I mentioned this, over to Wynn, Arkansas on Thursdays from like 10 in the morning till 6 p.m. And again, I mean, my God, they've got the crawfish, they've got everything, but they've got this thing for $15, and it's a boat full of crawfish etouffee with 3 pieces of just tender catfish on top of it.
Yum.
And then Audrey got the boudin egg rolls. God, it is so damn good. And by the way, Yancy, I didn't tell you this, and Bo and Ken, last week we had Tanner Smith brought 8 of his buddies up from Lake Charles and DeRidder, and they made something Saturday. It was pouring. We got about 4.5, 5 inches of rain, and they were up here to visit. They were trying to hunt, but there were no speckled-belly geese here yet. But duck season starts November 18th. But they cooked in this pot. It was like the witches, boiling, trouble. And they were cooking out of this pot. It was about 4 feet tall, and they made beef tongue. They bought 3 of them. Each of them, they were a cow's beef tongue, weighed about 20 pounds. And then they cooked it with a makshu. And, you know what the holy trinity of Cajun cooking is: celery, onions, and bell peppers. And, oh, my God, it was unbelievable. And you just can't beat the food out there. Yancy, you've got a lot of experience, like Ken and Bo, going to some places to get a good meal. What's a place in Oxford besides chicken on a stick at the Chevron there? What's a place that is a special deal, man, especially at 2 or 3 in the morning, about drunk 30. You can't beat those things. But Yancy, give us a surprise new place. Somebody's going to Oxford and they're going, I'm hungry, I want to eat. Where should I go?
I'd go Lenore's 1. Lenore's is located on the north end of the square. I'd go Jinsei 2. That is a sushi place in Midtown Oxford.
Yeah.
And then for a good little atmosphere for a date or something like that, I'd go to Sip. That is on the south part of the square. So that would be my 3 that I'd really go check out that are really gaining a lot of steam. There's so many good restaurants, but those would be my 3.
All right. Now, here's the question. Ken and Bo have been asking me about this, and I thought I'd ask Yancy. Everybody's talking about Michigan and that graduate assistant stealing signals or whatever. Who does Ole Miss have on the payroll who will be trying to interpret those signals from the Aggie yell leaders in the game tomorrow, Ole Miss and Texas A&M? Because if you can figure it out, you're a very smart man. Yancy Porter, tell me how. You'll get a 30 rack of Ham's beer from me if you can do that.
I don't know. I think I'm going to be paying more attention to Ole Miss's offensive line against A&M's defensive line. That's where the game's going to be won or lost for both teams. Who can control that area? As we know, A&M has arguably the top defensive line in the country.
Yeah.
Ole Miss's offensive line has been sporadic. They have been coming together as of late when they went back to some zone blocking schemes. Schematically changed a little bit from going man-on-man, which they were, schematically last year they were running the zone. Will Cincinnati had been here. He hires a new offensive line coach. They go to man-on-man. It did not work out well. They started going back to zone. Will that continue to be successful against A&M's defense? If Ole Miss can get that run game going, they're going to be really hard to beat.
Yeah. All right. We got about 7 minutes left. Bo, Ken, first off, Yancy, all of y'all, Coach Brady, Tommy Kane, thank you so much for joining us today. Unbelievable banter back and forth. So let's get going down here, and I'll just kind of roll some of these comments. And I appreciate everybody's comments on YouTube and on the text line. It is so much fun to hear from the fans who own college football. So and the great writing, and I love how when Yancey's on or Ken or Bo, you have topics that you want to cover. So and we didn't even get to the World Series yet. So Bo and Ken and Yancy.
2 minutes. I just need 2 minutes on that.
Yeah, that Bruce Boltich guy there, he's a pretty tough guy. Can't wait to hear what the ticket has to say after this one.
Oh my gosh, they hit it. they were hammering him yesterday, Ken. But no, Rob, I think they're like 7 or 8 SEC players. Chris Stratton and Nathaniel Lowe from Mississippi State, and Dane Dunning from Florida. Big SEC presence on that, Yancey. We just need to. And then Greg Kessinger, Donnie Kessinger's grandson, scored a decisive run in the playing for the Astros as a rookie this year. So, man, there's a ton of SEC influence in all those postseason playoffs.
Well, my son's going out here. Well, he's probably already out there. They're going to have the World Series parade is going to be out there at Globe Life Field, which is about 10 miles from where I am. It's about 50 from where you live up there in southern Oklahoma, Bo. They're going to have they said they're going to have about 250,000 people out there here, and the parade starts in about 2 hours. But I just wanted to throw in real quick. I'm always looking for goofy, quirky stories to bring to this hour, and I appreciate Rob always letting me telling them every once in a while. But I just thought this was funny. So everybody makes bets during the World Series, or Texas and Oklahoma. The governors will make bets on barbecue or something. But the Fort Worth and the Phoenix Zoos made a bet on the World Series. And both of them have diamondback rattlesnakes in their zoos, and there are a lot of snakes in Texas and in Arizona, a lot of deserts. Okay, and so what they bet was whoever lost, the opposing zoo has to name a player of the winning zoo's choice after in that zoo. So now we're going to figure out what the Fort Worth Zoo is going to name a zoo in the Phoenix Zoo. Is it going to be Simeon, Seeger, Garcia?
Carter.
Who? What'd you say?
Cousin Evan Carter, my relative. No,
Cousin Evan Carter. You never know. But I was thinking they need to name them by the first name, because a big old diamond rattlesnake, those things are mean. They can kill you. So a rattlesnake named Marcus or Corey doesn't seem as mean or threatening, But I just thought that was very interesting, and the zoo. So the Fort Worth Zoo has got to come up with a name, and so when they do, I'll report back to the show. But I just thought that was a funny bet to have, it makes a little cute story today. So, okay, I'll shut up now.
No, I look, I like that. And, Yancy knows this. I don't know if Bo and Ken do. Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com told me this several months ago. The sad news was reported from the Central Florida Zoo in Orlando when Edgar died. Edgar the rattlesnake was 7.5 feet long.
Wow.
Weighed 22 pounds, was 18 years old.
Wow.
And man, can you imagine running into Edgar, Yancy, when you were out turkey hunting for some Osceola turkeys down there in a Seminole plantation in the Florida Panhandle? Woo!
About 5 o'clock in the morning.
5 o'clock.
Yeah. Yancy, look, give us a prediction on what you think is going to happen when the Aggies come in and you got the big game. This is, everybody's talking about Georgia, but it's hard to. Okay, you got to take care of business against A&M. Give us a score prediction.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
This mute button keeps getting stuck there. I've got Ole Miss 31-20 in the game.
Okay.
I think Ole Miss is going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to start fast and finish strong, like they do pretty much every game, and they'll play just average okay in the second, third quarters, and it'll tighten up. And A&M might even have a 3-point lead going in the fourth quarter, and Ole Miss will pull away.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun. I'm going to tell you what. We cover all these SEC schools, ACC. Memphis is 6-2. SMU, you talked about that branding, what's going on out there. Tulane's only got one loss. This is why we love college football and college sports, because it all matters. Yancy, catch him Monday night, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis, 6 p.m. Central, and Super Talk Mississippi, all over Rebel Yell Hotline. Yancy and the crew, Harry Harrison, Gary Darby, Chuck Roundsville, and, of course, Yancy from Hattiesburg. Ken and Bo, let people know how they can follow you. And I'll just say, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Think about what that means, folks. Go out and help people. We are all blessed. You may not think you are. We are all blessed. Go bless others. Kind words, kind deeds, and follow through. Nobody has to know what you do to help other people, but the big guy, God knows. That's why my dad never put his name on the checks when he would give to the church. He goes, God knows what I'm doing, boy. The IRS does too. But anyway, it's another story. Ken, let them know how they can follow you, and same thing with you, Bo.
Sure. At X, look for me at Texas Six Man Ken and at FWAA.
And I'm proud to be a member of that FWAA, Ken.
Yes, we're glad to have you in there.
Thank you, sir.
And Rob, X, Bo Carter 52, sports page, Dallas Fort Worth, and also the Texas Sports Daily on Facebook. Always glad to be there. And Rob, I hope to see you at the tailgate sometime tomorrow, Vandy. And we're already in Nashville.
I'll tell you where we'll be. We're heading up right after the show to Clarksville, catching the train to Clarksville. There you go. And then we'll be in Nashville tomorrow for Auburn and the Doors in Nashville. We'll be broadcasting live from Nashville tomorrow. Yay. Hey, folks, thanks everybody for listening, for your contributions and everything like that. Support our sponsors. Have a great day. We are out of here.